Hey guys, so tonight I want to take a minute to share some thoughts with you guys that I really wish that I would have known back a year and a half ago when my trial started, when my spouse came to me and wanted out of the relationship. Now, my response was not proper and it wasn't right, but it's the response that many people have. Whether it's anger or frustration or desperation, they're all negative and they all will have negative outcomes. They will all push your spouse even further away than they are already. And so I wanted to give you guys some thoughts on things, on how to respond when your spouse comes to you about divorce or separation. So first of all, and this what we're going to talk about will actually go through the entire process of the time period that you are standing for your marriage. First of all, you need to stop pushing your spouse. And what I mean by that is, first of all, when you started your relationship in the first place, you went out on your first date, you didn't sit there and say, hey, look, if you don't go out with me, if you don't marry me, if you don't do this, I'm going to jump off the bridge and I'm going to kill myself. Or I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to beat my head off the concrete. I'm going to punch a hole in the wall. Whatever. Any of those things. None of those things would have garnered them wanting a relationship with you because they're needy and desperate and it's not attractive. So one of the things that is attractive is being able to be self-sufficient and strong on your own. And that's very difficult, especially when your spouse catches you off guard. But I want you to realize something. When your spouse finally comes to you about wanting a divorce or a separation, they have probably already been in their mind rationalizing, okay, they're going to say this. They're going to try to convince me to stay. They're going to say this or do this or whatever else. And I realize that's already going to happen. They've already mentally prepared for it and they're ready for it. They're expecting it. So what you're saying or what you're doing is not going to change their mind. You pushing them, trying to force them to do something is not going to garner them coming back to you or changing how they feel about the situation. The only way that you're going to change how they feel is if you're different than they expect. And if you've done this before, if you've tried to push your spouse to do something, and maybe you succeeded, but realize that when you manipulate your spouse into doing something, first of all, that may be why they want out of the relationship in the first place. And second of all, if you manipulate your spouse into staying and you're successful and you use that tool, it will probably not last very long. I want you to have success in the long term. And this is not easy. Standing for your marriage when your spouse does not desire to do so is one of the hardest, most difficult things that you will ever do in your entire life. But it is well worth it. It is something that you will be grateful you did for the rest of your life, especially if you have children, but even if you don't. So, first of all, you got to stop pushing them, all right? There is a pursue and a withdraw scenario in the situation. Basically, every single relationship will have a pursuer and a withdrawer. The pursuer will pursue, and when that happens, the withdrawer is overwhelmed and they back off, and their coping mechanism is to clam up and to seal off whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so if you are the pursuer, which most likely in this case you are if you're watching this video, then you are going to be pushing them to come back to you. You're going to think, okay, well, if I can just get them to read this book, if I can just show them this page, if I can just read them this Bible verse, if I can just do this, then it will change how they feel and they will come back to me. There's no such thing as an emergency in a relationship. And what I mean by that is, and I heard that in counseling, what I mean by that is when you go through a situation and there's a negative situation or whatever else, one conversation is not going to completely change that situation forever. It's just not. It may be the turning point in a situation, but it will never solve the problem. The long-term solution is going to be day in, day out, proving. And it may start with a conversation like, you know, honey, I really don't want a divorce. I don't want to separate. But I'm going to give you the space that you need. You've obviously got a lot going on in your mind, and I'm so sorry. Whatever it is that you've got going on, I wish that I would have been more attentive to whatever it is that's going on in your heart and mind, and I am really sorry. And here's the thing. You say, well, you don't understand. My spouse is cheating on me. They're out with somebody else, and they are in love with somebody else and all this other stuff. The truth is, and I'm not saying this to hurt you, I'm saying this to help you realize something, hopefully to help you save your marriage. Normally, a spouse does not try to find something outside of their marriage that exists in their marriage already. They're looking for something outside of their marriage that does not exist in their marriage. And that's how affairs start typically. And I'm not sitting here just blaming you. Your spouse, if they're cheating on you, is wrong. It is not right. However, at the same time that is true, do we want to sit here and point fingers and be right? Or do we want to solve the problem, which is marriage reconciliation and restoration? We don't need to be right. And that's something that you're going to need to learn very quickly if you have not already learned it. It's not a matter of being right. It's not a matter of proving that you are the better person. It's a matter of loving them in spite of the fact that they are not being the better person. And so what I would encourage you to do is, first of all, stop pushing. Do not push them. Do not. And what I mean by pushing is trying to, okay, for example, there are places and people out there that say, okay, look, you should sit there and write them letters every single day. You want to stay at the forefront of their mind. Well, if they're already overwhelmed and they need space, you're just going to push them further away. And then the other rule of thought is, well, I'm just going to completely pull out of their life and completely leave them alone. I'm going to pull out and leave them alone, and they are going to need me and want me and come running back into my arms. That's also really kind of, why in the world would you think that by leaving them alone, there is a sense in which there is times where when you step away, they realize, like we talked about, the pursue withdrawal. But the thing is, you shouldn't be completely abstinent from them. You should not be completely leaving them alone to the point, unless that's something they've asked you for. And what this is called, and I actually got this from Marriage Helper. I'm going to throw a plug in there for them. If you look on YouTube and type in Marriage Helper, they will have lots of different things and resources on marriage helps and different things like that. But one of the things that you can utilize at this point in time is smart contact. Not overwhelming them with too much contact, not completely abstaining from the conversation or life. If you have children, it's a great resource. If you're doing anything like business related together, or maybe you've got finances together or a house or any of those things, you can utilize any of those things. I don't care if it's pets. How is Fifi doing? How is Fifi doing today? Talk about things you know she likes or he likes. Talk about things you know they want to talk about. Don't make things about you. Don't constantly say, I miss you so much. I really wish that you just text me, or I wish things could go back to normal. You've got to give them space. You've got to let them have that breathing room so that they can make the decision. But at the same time, don't completely leave them alone. If you have questions about that, feel free to comment questions below, or if you need resources, also the same thing. And this is not going to be the last video. I will make more on this topic because there's no way I'm going to be able to cover it in this video alone. But this is one of the number one things. If you take anything away from this video, take this. When your spouse comes to you about wanting a separation or divorce, the worst thing that you can do is try to force them to change their mind. The best thing that you can do is approach this situation with a spirit of humility and grace, realizing that your spouse is only human and they're going through an emotional time as well, and they are hurting or they wouldn't be making the decision that they're making. Understanding that and seeing their need will help them to see you as this spouse that truly loves them. Fighting with them and arguing with them is not going to solve your problem. But being open to and listening to their heart and their issues can totally change the situation. The Bible says, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up strifes. Have that soft answer. When they come to you about that heartbreaking situation, have a soft answer. Don't be angry. Don't be frustrated. Don't be forceful. Be considerate of what they're going through and care about what they're going through and see past your own pain and hurt. I hope this has been an encouragement to you guys. Lord bless you. You guys have a wonderful night.